Ninja. The Debt Ninja will find the best companies across the country that will help you consolidate all your bills into one easy payment, reduce your payments by 30 to 50%, and get you out of debt fast. If you have unsecured debt of $10,000 or more, such as credit cards, loans, or medical bills, call the Debt Ninja for a free 15-minute consultation.
Call 800-826-1246. 800-826-1246. That's 800-826-1246. Call today.
The Debt Ninja.
This is Slickery Trigger for Rebel Road Tactical. With proper care and feeding, your pistol will be ready when you need it. There to save your life. Shouldn't your gear be that good? Whether you need a holster for comfortable everyday carry or a tough-as-nails holster for your next training course, Rebel Road Tactical has what you need. Check us out on the web at rebelroadtactical.com.
Tired of paying outrageous prices for Viagra? Well, we have great news for you. Now you can finally get Viagra at huge discounts. Healthy Man allows you to save up to $500 on Viagra. Why pay U.S. pharmacy prices of $15 per pill or more when you can get Viagra for less than $3 a pill? Call today and get 40 Viagra pills for only $99. This can cost as much as $600 at your local pharmacy. You can't afford not to call us. If you want Viagra at the lowest prices, never pay $15 a pill pharmacy prices again. Get Viagra for less than $3 a pill. Call 1-800-516-7602 today and save up to $500 and get 40 pills for just $99. Healthy Man is fast, easy, and affordable. Operators are waiting at 1-800-516-7602 to take your call right now. Call 1-800-516-7602. That's 1-800-516-7602. Again, 1-800-516-7602.
In these uncertain economic times, you've got to do whatever you can to save money. One of our biggest expenses can be our cars, especially when unexpected repair bills hit. Not anymore. If you own a vehicle with less than 130,000 miles, is less than 12 years old, has a warranty about to expire, or even no warranty at all, you could stop paying for car repairs. Roadside assistance, towing, and rental coverage are all included. Don't wait for the next repair. Make one free call right now to see if you qualify. If your vehicle is less than 12 years old, has less than 130,000 miles, even if it's out of warranty, paying for car repairs can become a thing of the past. Call us right now and get your car protected before your next repair bill hits. Get protection and no more repair bills. Call 800-696-1030. Again, 800-696-1030. That's 800-696-1030. 800-696-1030.
All right, folks, this is Rick Robinson with you. I want to tell you about some friends of mine from a company called Security Enforcement Specialists. When I ran my security agency for 12 years, I worked with one of these partners on a daily basis. He's been involved in this agency now, and with his other partner, they do have over 30 years of experience in the private security industry. If you own a business and you need someone to keep you or your customers or residents safe, then I highly recommend contacting Security Enforcement Specialists today. Give them a call at 405-703-1796. Again, that's 405-703-1796. Again, tell them Rick from K98 Talk sent you. Like I said, if you need the help, they are here for you. So make sure that you go look them up, check them out, and see what they can do.
Wrong way. Welcome to the place.
Individuals and businesses with tax problems, listen carefully. Do you feel like you're losing control over your finances? If you owe over $10,000 in back taxes or have unfiled tax returns, we can help you take back control. The IRS is the largest and most aggressive collection agency in the world, and they can seize your bank account, garnish your paycheck, close your business, and file criminal charges. Take control of your tax problems now by calling the experts at Tax Mediation Services and take advantage of the Fresh Start program and new laws that may allow us to negotiate a settlement for the lowest amount possible. Our team of tax attorneys and enrolled agents can stop collections and get you protected so you can take control of your financial future. Tax Mediation Services is accredited by the Better Business Bureau. Call now for a free case review and a price protection guaranteed quote.
Call Tax Mediation Services now at 800-610-9050. That's 800-610-9050. 800-610-9050.
The internet will never be the same. You're listening to K98Talk.com.
Wow. Good God, y'all. What is good for? Absolutely. Let's get started.
Welcome to Opinion Nation.
And we stand today on the edge of a new frontier.
There is nothing wrong with America that cannot be cured by what is right with America.
What makes us Americans is our shared commitment to an ideal that all of us are created equal.
I, too, am America.
Now here's your host, Bryce Robbins.
Good morning, everybody, and welcome back. I have been gone for a while, and I am now back. I was, it's the end of the year in school, and, between all the end-of-year activities and graduation coming up in the next 3 days, I've been very busy and have not really been around, but I promised a great show for you when I return with Dr. Jill Stein, and surprise, surprise, she's not here. Because, well, they've set dates with me twice and canceled twice. So, when you're polling at 5%, you don't have time for Opinion Nation. But that's beside the point. A couple things I wanted to touch up on. Lloyd Kelso, if you remember, he's actually still in the running. And if you look him up, he's actually spent close to $80,000 on his campaign. And if you haven't heard his name yet, that might be the biggest waste of $80,000 ever. But I'm going to try to have him back on my show. I was actually just talking to him last night. And, maybe see if he'll do another interview where I can ask him why he's still running. I mean, keep this in mind. Jill Stein and Gary Johnson are both polling collectively at 15%. All right, Gary Johnson at 10, her at 5. Nationally. I go down the block, most of the people don't, actually nobody knows who Lloyd Kelso is. So there's an inherent, I guess naivety, but he's naive about the fact that he absolutely cannot win, and it astonishes me that he's still going for it. I guess don't stop going after your dreams, but it just seems like this is not his race to win. Maybe he should go after Congress or something else, be it that he has $80,000 to blow on a campaign. It's interesting in itself. But anyways, today I have a special guest for you. He is absolutely, well, I'll just let him introduce himself. Back on our show is, come on out, buddy.
But I don't want it. It's scary here.
That's right. It's Rowdy Ricky Robinson right here on Opinion Nation. So today we're actually going to be talking about gun control. And, obviously in wake of the Orlando shooting, the topic has come up again. We've had more deaths in this country from gun violence than any other source. And that's including, I think, the Afghani war, the Vietnam War. I think it's all the wars combined. In a 30-year period, we've had more violence from guns. 30,000 people alone will die this year from gun violence in this country. Now, the question, lo and behold, what do we do about it? Well, right now, if many of you saw in the news or on C-SPAN or whatever you were doing this week, Senator Chris Murphy from Massachusetts, I believe, was having a very long filibuster. Or Connecticut, sorry. One or the other. Was having a very long filibuster 14 hours he was on his feet, could not use the bathroom, could not eat, could not step down, just to have a vote on gun control. Now, the NRA has a very big grasp over Republicans in Congress and even some Democrats in Congress. They give out their report card, and effectively, if you're a Republican and you get below an A, you can kiss your seat goodbye in many districts around the country. So today I want to focus on gun control, and I want to start with the fact I want to ask Rick a question. Do you think it's ridiculous that the CDC doesn't allow or is not permitted to study gun violence in this country? They are not permitted by the United States government as a result of lobbying and as a result of the NRA's influence and as a result of etc. have not permitted the Center for Disease Control to study gun violence. Don't you think if they studied gun violence, we could come to the root cause of why there's so much gun violence, where there's so much gun violence, what's causing all this gun violence, and thus better assess it? Like, why aren't we allowed to? We're allowed to study, the CDC is allowed to study everything under the sun, except for gun violence. So what do you think about that?
First of all, I was unaware they were excluded. Second of all, I was not aware that gun violence was a disease.
Well, the Center for Disease Control does a lot more than just disease. They just do, anything that's plaguing the health, really, of the United States. And this is absolutely something that's causing more deaths than cancer. So we should absolutely be taking a look at it. What's causing it? Is it so much mental illness? Is it, irresponsibility? Is it etc.? And we absolutely should. I think they should absolutely be taking a look at it. But be it that you didn't know, I guess we can move on. So I want to talk about specifically I want to get into the assault weapons bans and all that, because I know that, we have a whole show to get to that. But what I want to talk about right now, I think will take up a good chunk of time, is the notion, and I'll play it for you right now. This is Senator, the name actually got it wrong on C-SPAN. I actually was just able to catch it. This is Senator Markey, okay? He's from Massachusetts, and he is going to talk about, you'll see.
Can be on a no-fly list, can't get on a plane, don't want a terrorist in the passenger cabin of a plane in the United States, so they're banned from getting on that plane. But they can just walk across the street into a gun shop and buy an assault weapon that they can then use to kill people in the United States who they hate. Does that really make any sense?
The answer is obviously no. Rick, I want your opinion on that.
I don't think you do. First of all, I'm not sure if... Do you have, your speakers turned on or something? Because I'm getting an echo on your side.
Oh, no. Is it better now?
Yeah, it's not doing it now. Okay, so... Can I just state the blatantly obvious? Flying is not a protected action from the Constitution.
Yeah.
Owning a firearm is.
But they're terrorists.
No, they're not. They're on a watch list. That doesn't automatically make them terrorists. Because and this is coming from somebody that used to work for an airline. Do you know how many people that I booked flights for every single day over the phone that had to give me a redress number because they had the same name as somebody that was on the terror watch list? Do you know how many people can just be arbitrarily put on that same watch list? There is no right to fly guaranteed under the Constitution of the United States of America. So there is no obvious correlation between the ability to restrict them to fly based on public opinion and based on the fact that they may or may not have the same name as a terrorist. But there is a correlation to not be able to stop them from purchasing a firearm on what is basically a straw man's argument because we have no proof that they're terrorists. They've just been added to a list.
So let's just give the numbers before we go any further. There are an estimated, and this is according to, this is from an article, this is from PolitiFact. There are an estimated 700,000 people on the terrorist watch list, 10,000 of whom are American citizens. The rest are said to be foreigners. All right, so I want to continue with this, though. So we had, and this is from Senator Charles Schumer from New York, famous senator. He says, quote, last year, 244 people on the terrorist watch list tried to purchase guns. 244 suspects of terrorists. 244 suspected terrorists walked into gun shops and attempted to purchase a firearm. 223 were able to get that firearm. Only 21 went empty-handed. Schumer then said 91% of the suspected terrorists, when they sought to purchase a gun last year, were successful. So, and that's according to the GAO, the Government Accountability Office, So, my question is, we restrict guns in, clip size in many states. We restrict guns from the mentally ill. We should, if we don't. In some states, we do. You have to get mental health screening in some states. In some states, you actually don't. Surprise, surprise. We already do restrict many types of weapons from the public. I mean, we restrict you from getting full-out, machine guns in many cases. So if we're going to say that, it's protected by our, constitutional right, well, we already restrict some weapons. I don't understand why we can't restrict weapons from these people. I mean, we restrict them from other groups of people, so why can't we restrict them from them?
Because, again, if we're restricting them from other people, there's due process involved in those restrictions. There is no due process involved in this list. And this is coming from someone, and we had this conversation off the air, so I might as well just throw myself under the bus. This is coming from someone who, when I first heard Donald Trump state that he was meeting with the NRA to talk to them about trying to find a way to make sure that folks on the no-fly list weren't able to just walk in and buy a gun, for about 5 minutes, this is, my background coming into play, law enforcement, private security, everything else, for about 5 minutes, I was like, hey, that's not really a terrible idea because it's only going to impact a very small segment of the population because, as you said, only about 10,000 Americans are actually on that list. The rest of them are all foreigners. So at the same time, I'm weighing cost-benefit analysis and basically saying, well, that's 10,000 people that may have to jump through extra hoops to be able to get a gun. But then I stopped and started thinking about it because of how easy it is to be placed on that list. And this is where my thought process started going. Just because for about 5 seconds I was okay with this idea doesn't mean that I would be okay with the idea if someone that I was diametrically opposed to their thought processes suddenly had the ability to start putting people on a terror watch list that would be able to restrict them from buying firearms. Because we've already seen what can happen in an administration that just basically uses their power in ways that they shouldn't. All of the different groups that have been targeted by the IRS under this administration are astounding. So the simple fact that I may have been okay with it for a moment doesn't mean that we shouldn't be looking at this further down the road. And the simple fact of the matter is, once we remove due process from the equation, it's going to be very simple for somebody later down the road to go, oh, that Jewish guy right there, yeah, he's a terrorist because he's Jewish. He shouldn't be able to buy a gun.
Yeah, well, the thing is, though, the 10,000 people that are on this terror watch list, I just get the vibe that I'm not one of them. And
not yet, but that's my point. If you looked at how easy it is to get put on the watch list,
I mean, I don't know how easy is it to get put on that watch list. Like,
maybe you should have looked it up before you actually made it a topic on your show, because it's really easy to get put on that watch list. You can be put on the watch list for having the same name as a terrorist. They don't do any checking. They don't realize, well, hey, this person was born in Michigan, this guy was born in Abu Dhabi. No, if your name's the same, you're automatically on that list. If you've traveled into certain locations, even if it was for legitimate reasons, you can wind up on that list. And the simple fact of the matter is, since there's no due process to the parameters that set up that list, the list can be changed arbitrarily at any time for any reason, which means just because you're not on that list today doesn't mean you won't wind up on that list tomorrow. So no, since there's no due process, very, very bad idea.
I think there should absolutely, and I think some Republican congressman from Texas, who was one of the Republicans who supported this, said exactly what you were saying. He listed your concerns, but also saw merit to my argument and said there needs to be some sort of screening method, some sort of due process method where we can, give people a method out, where we can give people, a voice in the legal system. So
it's not just a method out, though. The whole thing about it is if we're going to use this to actually start infringing on American citizens' constitutional rights, then we need to revamp the entire process. There needs to be some sort of controls about how you can be placed on the list. There needs to be oversight about how you make changes to for what reasons you can be placed on the list. The whole thing would need to be completely revamped before I was even marginally comfortable with this, because as it stands right now, all it takes is the president picking up a phone to have you added to the terrorist watch list, or taken off the watch list for that matter, because he's just removed 800 people.
Well, I mean, from that point of view, then, I mean, there's really no argument here. We're both stating that, anyone on the terrorist watch list, as long as it's a legitimate terrorist watch list, should not be able to get a gun. Would you agree with that?
But that's the whole point. I can't say that right now because there is no legitimate terror watch list. There's an arbitrary terror watch list that has no oversight, no controls, and no indication as to how it's ever going to be corrected to make it an actual watch list instead of a we don't like you, so we're going to put you on it, and then we're okay with you, so we're going to take you off it kind of list. As long as it remains arbitrary and as long as it remains under the whimsical control of an administration, then I have very severe problems with that. So no, I cannot say that I'm ever going to be okay with anyone who's been placed on the terror watch list to not be able to buy a firearm, because it removes due process from the equation. It's going to have to be completely revamped, completely reworked, and completely done to the point where there's oversight. And then I'm probably still not going to be okay with it, because the issue is, once we start doing that type of thing, it's only going to get worse. Things, no matter what the best intentions are, when we start down that type of road, it never goes the way that it's supposed to. Same thing that we've talked about time and time again on the other show, when we talked about the best of intentions that started the programs like Social Security, food stamps, and everything else. The government has completely co-opted those programs and have turned what were supposed to be safety nets into spider webs. So what are they going to do when they ultimately have control over who can buy a gun and who can't? They're going to abuse it, because that's what the government does. That's the whole reason for the Second Amendment in the first place, is to make sure that when the government becomes too abusive, if people don't have any other recourse, they can try to do something about it. Now, at this point, we are completely outpaced and outmatched as to the firepower that's available between U.S. citizenry and the actual government. So if we ever get to the point where we're trying to rise up against tyranny, it's going to be a lot like the old DS9 episodes with the Cardassians versus the Bajorans, but there will be a lot of folks that would still try in the event that that happened. Probably going to lose, probably going to be painful, but at least we have the attempt. But if we have the ability to remove and put people onto a list at whim that restricts them from being able to purchase firearms, how many future presidents are going to use that list just to make sure that people that they don't agree with can't buy weapons?
See, I just don't buy this whole argument that, the government is this evil, corrupted organization that's going to destroy the world, and they're starting by taking away our guns. Obama has never, ever taken away anybody's gun. He just wants background checks. He just wants...
there already are background checks. That's the part of this that your side doesn't ever talk about. Everything that the president is railing about on a daily basis already exists.
See, they say that. And... you look into it, where are these federal background checks that go into a federal database that are monitored by the federal government? There are none. There aren't even states, some states that keep these federal background checks. New Jersey is actually pretty good on it. I don't know how about your state.
So wait, you just said there was no such thing as a federal background check, but then you said New Jersey keeps the federal background checks.
No. I was saying that they keep their background checks. You have to. New Jersey has very strict gun laws. And subsequently, we've seen less gun crime in New Jersey. There's actually a correlation between the states that have the most guns have the most gun violence, except for some states.
Wait a minute. Hang on. Let me pop a pin in your balloon of argument there real quick. Have you looked at the gun violence totals in Chicago recently?
Yes.
And is not Illinois one of the most heavily regulated gun control states in the 50 states?
No, I didn't say that there weren't outliers. Like Idaho is one outlier, but I mean, I think there's a lot more reason for that gun violence.
It's really funny because if you really look at it and you really break down the numbers, there is a massive correlation to there being more gun violence in most places where there is more gun control. As an example, as what you would consider an outlier, look at the country of Sweden. Every single person above a certain age owns a weapon in that country because they all have to do service and they all have access to an automatic weapon. There is almost zero gun violence in that country because everyone's raised around them, everybody understands them, everybody has to use them. But yet there's almost no gun violence there. But if you really honestly...
What I think about that argument is that if I give that argument about Australia, or if I give that argument about Canada, where they have very strict gun laws, and in most cases in Australia they've taken guns away from in most cases, people say, "Oh, you can't do that because there's a different society, and we're in America and we're so different than them." But if you say, "Oh, well, in Sweden everybody has guns," yes, I understand that.
So wait, because I use your own argument against you, suddenly you start talking about the fact that most conservatives throw out your argument because it's a different country. I've never once told you that there's not a correlation. What I've told you...
I respect that argument, and I agree, but I think Sweden is, in fact, everybody goes to the military there. Everybody's trained with a weapon, okay? You have to do mandatory military service. In this country, you don't. People aren't trained with weapons, okay? You don't have to take mandatory instruction lessons.
Actually, in a lot of states you do.
In a lot of states, you don't. I mean,
No. There are only, 3 states in the entire union that still recognize constitutional carry? So, yes, to be able to carry a weapon in about 47 out of the 50 states, you have to take training to be able to do so. Most of them also require that you take some sort of not only a full background check, but typically a mental evaluation before you can even take the training to be able to carry the firearm. So the fact that you keep saying that too many states don't have these type of regulations already in place, that's not true. The simple fact of the matter is, and let me take this one step further for you. If we were going back to this no-fly list, let me tell you the one way that I couldn't necessarily have a problem with it, because I'm a 10th Amendment guy. If each individual state all of a sudden decided, hey, you can't buy a gun in this state because you're on a terror watch list, I couldn't really default that. But the simple fact of the matter is, if the federal government starts trying to do it, that is a direct correlation of violation of the Second Amendment. It's no different than with mass care. I didn't have an issue with mass care having mass care because that was a state decision. Obamacare may be based on mass care, but that's no longer a state decision. Even if Oklahoma decided all of a sudden they wanted Oklahoma care, I have the choice to either stay there and accept whatever health care they start providing, or I have the option to move. A lot of these things are exactly the same way when you really stop and think about it. If it's done on a state level, I really don't have that much of a problem with it because I can't because of the 10th Amendment. But what I do have a problem with is all of these straw man arguments about how if you look at the numbers, then in the places where they have more gun control, there's less gun violence, because that doesn't hold water. If you look at the numbers overall, there's a stark contrast between the differences where there is less gun control and more gun control as to the number of people that are shot and killed every single weekend.
We've seen different numbers then by that just statement. I mean, I was looking at some studies the other day that they were saying that in states where there are more guns, there tends to be more gun violence, and in areas where there are more guns, there tends to be more gun violence.
Hang on. No. That's a really skewed statement, because just because there's gun control doesn't mean there's less guns. It just means that more people are getting them illegally. So yes, that statement, based on what you just said right there, yeah, if there are less guns, then there's less gun violence, obviously, because there's less guns. But just to assume that because a state or a city or a town has more gun control than the other, that automatically means there are less guns, that is a fallacy. Because the people that are using those guns to do the things they shouldn't be doing with them don't give a crap about what laws restrict them from being able to get them in the first place, because they're just going to go buy them off of the back of a truck somewhere. The simple point that I've been trying to make now for months and years is, unless somebody's going to figure out a way to put some sort of MIB-style neuralizer in the Statue of Liberty, set it off, and send out a message that guns no longer exist, there's no way to ever put the genie back in the bottle.
So then let me ask you, though, because, I mean, it's definitely worth the discussion. If we are not going to ban... your argument, from what it sounds like, correct me if I'm wrong, that everybody should be armed, correct?
My argument is that, yes, pretty much everybody within reason should be armed. There should be things that we can do to make sure that the crazy people don't get guns, but if you are above a certain age, have not been convicted of a felony, and you don't have any mental health issues other than PTSD, because otherwise none of our police officers would be able to carry a gun, then yes, I don't have an issue with everybody in the country carrying a gun. I never have, I never will.
Okay, so wait. I honestly, from what you've just described, sounds pretty fine to me. I mean, I, again, do not have a problem with anybody having a gun so long as they're mentally sound, so long as you named another thing that I agreed with. What did you say? You said mental illness?
No mental illness other than PTSD and can't have been convicted of a felony.
Can't have been convicted of a felony. Okay, so that's actually interesting because now that's like the terrorist watch list almost, but I guess not quite because you said convicted of a felony.
Yeah, due process involved in convictions for felonies.
Fair enough. Yeah, no. Fair enough. So that, in effect, would be the federal government sentencing, putting down gun control, and that you're fine with that. That is common sense to you, because I would agree with that. That makes sense to me.
That's not gun control. That's population control. There's a big difference. I'm not saying
you can't get a gun because you've been convicted of a felony, and I agree
that's
with that.
already commonplace.
What do you mean by that?
People that are convicted of felonies typically are not allowed to buy firearms.
There are...
No, trust me. You forget my background. If you've been convicted of a felony, you're not typically allowed to own a firearm. Doesn't mean that you can't get one. It just means that you have to break the law to get it. But this takes us back to the same point I've been making all along. No matter what type of gun control we put in place, no matter what limitations or restrictions we put in place, there's always going to be a way for someone who wants to break the law to be able to break the law. So it really isn't going to matter what steps we take or how strict we try to make it. The bad people are still going to be the ones that wind up with the weapons that we don't want in the first place. So all we're doing with gun control is already punishing the law-abiding citizens, because every time anybody talks to you about gun control, let me kind of point something out to you. Taking a gun into a club, against the law. Deciding to shoot other people, that's against the law. So he's already broken 2 laws 50 plus times. And yet we think by putting gun control in place, we're going to stop him from being able to do that.
All right, let me ask you this, because it kind of... We're going to go back and forth with the whole, should we control guns, should we not? Obviously, we can... There are merit to both sides of the argument here. But what I want to ask you is this, because this question is really never asked, and I think it definitely should be asked more often. And I guess we can get to it after the break, but I'll ask the question prior. In this country, we have significantly less gun laws than many other countries, and in comparison, we have significantly more gun laws than a few countries. Israel, for example, assault weapons banned. Australia got rid of their guns, or for the most part did. My question, though, is in this country, we have more gun violence per capita. So, when you adjust for the population size, then all of these countries in the industrialized world, around the world, period, we by and far lead the world in a few things. Number of incarcerated citizens, and also death by gun, right? People who are shooting people. 30,000 people die in this country from gun violence each year. And again, I will reiterate, when you adjust for population size, we still outnumber, I think, the next closest country by 20% or something like that. So what is it that makes Americans so either inherently violent and inherently destructive, or is it the gun laws? What is it? What is it that is making us so much more violent?
It's a misnomer, but we'll talk about that when we get back, because the one thing that you're not taking into account is most of the other Western cultures have some form of gun control. We really don't. But if you look at the other ways that people are killed every single day, the numbers pretty much still match up. The only difference is we have regular access to weaponry. They have to use things like hammers, baseball bats, and knives.
All right, well, we will get to that, absolutely, because I've heard that argument, and we will definitely be discussing that right when we get back after this break.
The leader in talk radio on the Internet, right here on K98Talk.com.
Is debt beating you down? You need discipline. You need the Debt Ninja. If you've been caught in a financial trap and need to be set free, then you need the Debt Ninja. Want to stop those harassing collection calls, start saving thousands in interest and fees, and get out of debt fast? Then you need to call the Debt Ninja. The Debt Ninja will find the best companies across the country that will help you consolidate all your bills into one easy payment, reduce your payments by 30 to 50%, and get you out of debt fast. If you have unsecured debt of $10,000 or more, such as credit cards, loans, or medical bills, call the Debt Ninja for a free 15-minute consultation.
Call 800-826-1246. 800-826-1246. That's 800-826-1246. Call today.
The Debt Ninja.
This is Slickery Trigger for Rebel Road Tactical. With proper care and feeding, your pistol will be ready when you need it, there to save your life. Shouldn't your gear be that good? Whether you need a holster for comfortable everyday carry or a tough-as-nails holster for your next training course, Rebel Road Tactical has what you need. Check us out on the web at rebelroadtactical.com.
Tired of paying outrageous prices for Viagra? Well, we have great news for you. Now you can finally get Viagra at huge discounts. Healthy Man allows you to save up to $500 on Viagra. Why pay U.S. pharmacy prices of $15 per pill or more when you can get Viagra for less than $3 a pill? Call today and get 40 Viagra pills for only $99. This can cost as much as $600 at your local pharmacy. You can't afford not to call us. If you want Viagra at the lowest prices, never pay $15 a pill pharmacy prices again. Get Viagra for less than $3 a pill. Call 1-800-516-7602 today and save up to $500 and get 40 pills for just $99. Healthy Man is fast, easy, and affordable. Operators are waiting at 1-800-516-7602 to take your call right now. Call 1-800-516-7602. That's 1-800-516-7602. Again, 1-800-516-7602.
In these uncertain economic times, you've got to do whatever you can to save money. One of our biggest expenses can be our cars, especially when unexpected repair bills hit. Not anymore. If you own a vehicle with less than 130,000 miles, is less than 12 years old, has a warranty about to expire, or even no warranty at all, you could stop paying for car repairs. Roadside assistance, towing, and rental coverage are all included. Don't wait for the next repair. Make one free call right now to see if you qualify. If your vehicle is less than 12 years old, has less than 130,000 miles, even if it's out of warranty, paying for car repairs can become a thing of the past. Call us right now and get your car protected before your next repair bill hits. Get protection and no more repair bills. Call 800-696-1030. Again, 800-696-1030. That's 800-696-1030. 800-696-1030.
I love that theme song. Okay, welcome back, everybody. I'm Bryce Robbins. This is Opinion Nation, and today I have my lovely boss.
Did you just call me lovely?
Yeah, my lovely boss. I mean, come on. What other line of work do you get to yell at your employer? I mean, come on. That's a pretty cool job I got going here. Pretty good gig.
Well, to be fair, I spend a lot of time yelling back. So.
That's true, but my point here is like, I don't get fired for that type of thing. Like, I don't lose my show for yelling at you, which is pretty cool.
Maybe we should talk about that. No, just play.
No, I'm good with that. All right, so I want to get to what I was saying before, and you were talking about hammers and knives, but just for people who might just be tuning in, let me just rephrase my last question. The question was, in this country, by and far, we have more deaths or murders from gun violence than any other country. And even when you adjust for inflation, the number is 30,000 people. But when you adjust for inflation, I think, again, we're still around 20-30% higher than the next leading country. And my question is it that we're inherently more violent? What is making these numbers so high? Why does America have an epidemic? If 30,000 people were to die from anything else, it would be a national outcry to do something. But we are not. So what is it?
So my question, to actually see if we can find a root cause or a correlation, you keep mentioning that we're higher than the next country on the list. Who is the next country on the list?
I think the next country on the list was it was some European country, and some Latin American country actually, and the name I don't know.
Have you actually Googled the number of people that are actually murdered in that particular country, or just looked at their numbers for gun violence? Because I guarantee
I was just looking at the numbers for gun violence.
Because I guarantee you, if you look at that country, there's probably some form of gun control. But if you look at the overall murder numbers, you're going to find them probably population size pretty equivocal. Because the issue, when you remove things like guns from the equation, it doesn't stop violence. People just start using other things to commit violence, like hammers, baseball bats, knives, fists. I mean, look at the numbers between Great Britain and America. Those are pretty easy to find. The murder numbers are pretty spot on.
But there's a difference, because if I try to kill you with an AR-15 or a hammer, I'm going to kill a lot more people with the AR-15. So I guess what you're.
But no. See, that's where you're taking the argument in a completely different direction. Your question about the number of people that are killed is, are we inherently more violent than other nations? The answer to that is an equivocal no, because all they do is find another way to inflict the violence. Yes, it may be less successful overall, but the violence still occurs. And there are just as many stabbings in countries where there aren't guns as there are shootings in countries where there are guns. And there are still just as many violent actions. So all I was doing was addressing the specific question that you asked, which is, are we inherently more violent as a nation? No, I submit to you that the human population and condition as a whole are inherently violent. Look at how we treat each other.
Okay, perfect answer. And I agree with that. So what you're saying then is that they just don't have the means of killing people the way we do. They don't have the access to guns. So my next question would be this. We have the constitutional amendment. Government has the power to amend the Constitution. They've done it when amendments haven't worked. Prohibition, for example. It simply just didn't work. The Second Amendment evidently is not necessarily clear enough. It's not working the way it should be. I mean, we're having problems with gun violence in this country.
Hang on. Did you ever actually take a civics class? Because it's not the government that amends the Constitution.
Yes, the states come together, they approve it, 3/4 of the states approve it, and then
hang on, means who actually modifies the Constitution? Is it the government or the populace?
I'm a little confused as to what you're saying. The delegates.
You specifically said the government is the one that can modify the Constitution. That's not true. In order to modify the Constitution by amendment, there has to be a vote in each individual state. If 3/4 of the states agree with that change, then they appoint delegates to go to D.C. to see about making the change. So it's not the government that changes the Constitution. It is we, the people, that change the Constitution.
No, it's still representatives of the people who are sent by the people.
But it still has to be a vote by the people to even start the process. So to use the phrase, the government can change the Constitution, is a fallacy, because that's not true. The government can't change the Constitution without violating the Constitution. We, the people, have to change the Constitution.
Well, the amendment process is state-based. So if there was an initiative to amend the Constitution to at least specify the Second Amendment, to at least give more structure to it, might be helpful. I mean, we are... Before, you said we are living in our last show, I think it was, you said that the Constitution by no means is a living document, right? You would agree with that?
I have never once in my entire career as a talk show host ever used the phrase the Constitution is a living document. I disagree with that.
That's what I said. You said it is not a living document.
Well, no, I'm just making sure that I clarified it again, because this is like the 5th time that you've asked me that today.
All right. No, I just want to clarify for people listening now. So, if it's not a living document, and we are living by the, the original intent of the Constitution, then don't you think that constitutional amendments, by that sense, are inappropriate? That they shouldn't be allowed? That something to that nature, to that effect?
I'm sorry. What? I missed you somewhere.
Okay, we were just talking about constitutional amendments, and my question here is if you think that we have the right to do that, then how can you be in favor of the whole "it's not a living document" argument? Because it seems that
because
you
it's
can
not.
amend it. It is.
I mean, it is not a living document. It is a document that has in itself the ability built in for the populace to make changes when they feel they are necessary. That does not No, it's not. Not in the... Okay, look, maybe you're using the phrase living document different than your liberal cohorts, because to them, a living document seems to be a little bit different than what you're saying now, but that is not a living document. Something that can be ratified, changed, or codified is not a living document. It is still just a document. A marriage license can be nullified. That doesn't make it a living document. A divorce decree can be nullified, which is specifically a change. That does not make it a living document. Just because a document has the ability to be overruled, changed, or corrected does not make it a living, breathing organism. It makes it something that is subject to change. And the simple fact of the matter is, just because it can be changed does not mean that it is a living, breathing document. So it is a misnomer to continue to use that phrase, because most of the folks on your side of the aisle that start talking about it being a living, breathing argument living, breathing document aren't talking about the argument from the fact that it can be modified. They're talking about the fact that it should basically not even have to be modified to be able to make changes because it's a living, breathing document and should evolve over time.
Okay, so I want to jump a little more deeper into the whole constitutional argument here. So, before, let me start fresh here. So, the notion that it's a document that can be ratified and changed and whatever, understood. And you want to go off the original intent. Well, can we acknowledge the fact that the founding fathers made many mistakes? For example, slavery, the 3/5 clause was in the Constitution.
No, hang on. Because let's look at... Hang on. No. You call that... Hang on. You call that a mistake. I don't, because slavery already existed. The 3/5 clause was a protection, because if not for the 3/5 clause, then all of these plantation owners would have been able to count their slaves as full population, which meant when they went to go cast their votes, they would have had more clout than anyone else that didn't have slaves. So the 3/5 clause, while it was a necessity, was not done out of evil. It was done out of protection. Otherwise, the slave owners would have had undue recognition in Congress because of the fact that their populations would have been higher because of the number of slaves that they owned.
Yes. That's exactly what they were afraid of, is that the slaves would be represented.
No. That's not it. No, it's not. Because the slaves can't be represented, they were slaves. What they were afraid of is the owners of the slaves would use the fact that they had a bolstered population based on the fact that slaves had equal representation under the Constitution, but were still owned by another person, to be able to forever make changes that would outweigh and outbalance the Constitution as a whole. It didn't have anything to do with wanting the slaves to not be recognized, because the side of this argument that your side never seems to acknowledge is there were plenty of free black people during the time of slavery. There were even black slave owners in the time of slavery. The simple fact of the matter is this was a protective measure to make sure that people that chose to own other people weren't unfairly represented in Congress.
Okay. Well, my question, though, to you is that evidently, and I understand that it represented population, and I obviously, okay, yes, I understand. My question here, though, is that if they've evidently acknowledged slavery and you deemed it okay to have slaves by the Constitution, right? Many of the people who wrote the Constitution, Jefferson, they all had slaves. if they've made mistakes, how can we say that this one wasn't a mistake? That just should be changed. That we should change the Second Amendment. Because
okay, fine. So look, let's put this argument to bed once and for all. You're already starting to run for office, so do the world a favor. Get yourself elected, make it your platform that you want to change the Second Amendment. Put it to a vote of the people. When it passes, great. If it doesn't, sit down and shut the hell up.
Fair enough. You just told me to sit down and shut the hell up on my own show. God damn, this is such an interesting station.
I'm your boss.
If it happened anywhere else.
Remember how you were talking about how great it is to be able to yell at your boss? It's really awesome to be able to tell a host on another show to sit down and shut the hell up because technically you own the rights to the show.
That is very true. No, but I mean, we can get off topic here a little bit because there's only 10 minutes left in the show. But like, at K98, we do things a lot differently. But it makes for a good show. So I don't mind it. All right. So, actually, you bring up something interesting. Yes, I'm running for the Board of Education in my town. If any of you were wondering what Rick meant by you're already running for office.
Hasn't even graduated high school yet, already running for Board of Education. Now that is some drive, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah. I actually am curious to see where this one goes. Because in my town, you know, they were struggling to even find enough people to fill some elected positions. Some people don't even run. So, like, I might just get the position just for having my name on the ballot. And that scares me about this country, that happens so often.
So basically what you're saying is I need to move to New Jersey, figure out some position that nobody else is running for, put my name on the ballot, and get into office.
No, you absolutely would. And I don't even think you have to move to New Jersey. There's that, like, the head of the Republican committee in Texas. Look up his fucking Twitter. Oh my God. Not only is he a racist bigot, and I don't normally use the word, like, I don't call it, like, I'll give credence to conservatives. When liberals call people, you know, racist and bigoted, and they throw that word around a lot. And I've been kind of upset with that we throw the word racist around a lot when people are not racist. Like Donald Trump, they say some of the things he said was racist. I don't think is necessarily racist, but beside the point. This guy is beyond racist. Like my friend was showing me his Twitter, and you know I don't use Twitter. Oh my God, this guy's insane. Like, he talks about black people, he talks about gays, and he is the head of the agenda setting for Texas Republicans. And see, that's why I don't like you people. I'm just kidding. I don't mind you people.
No, he's not.
Yeah. You know, it really would not be a show in this day and age if I didn't talk about Donald Trump. And I actually just want to play a clip from a Bill Maher show. I don't know if you ever watched Bill Maher. I don't know if you like Bill Maher, but whatever. This clip, it's just very true. It'll take us for 6 minutes, but I think it's worth the enjoyment of this show. So I'm going to play this clip from Bill Maher, and then we can have a last word in a couple minutes. So here we go.
Finally, new rule. Now that the Trump phenomenon seems to have peaked, Americans must ask themselves, why? Why for so long was there one set of rules for everyone who's ever run for president, and then suddenly a completely new set for this Donald Trump person? Because when it comes to lowering the bar, he really raised the bar. So, it's been a year and a day since Donald Trump descended on an escalator to announce he was running for president, and since then he's just kept on descending. So let me take you back in time to the pre-Trump era and show you what people used to think was a monstrous political gaffe. Here's Al Gore and Bush the First, each doing something in a debate that the country found to be beyond the pale. Here's differences.
We have a question right here.
Yes, how...
George W. Bush is checking his watch.
Shocking, isn't it? sighing and looking at your watch to show such blatant disrespect for our sacred democracy. Then there's this guy at a debate, bragging about his dick.
He referred to my hands. If they're small, something else must be small. I guarantee you there's no problem. I guarantee.
What if Bush had done that? Read my lips, 6.5 inches. Or take the sensitive issue of race. There was a firestorm back in '92 when Ross Perot said to a black audience,
Now, I don't have to tell you who gets hurt first when this sort of thing happens to it. You people do.
Oh my God, he said you people. Smother him with the AIDS quilt. George Allen was a rising star in 2006, and then his career was over when he said,
This fella here over here with the yellow shirt, Macaca, or whatever his name is.
Did you hear it? Did you hear it, everybody? He said macaca. Whatever the fuck that is. Trump tweets more racist shit than that before lunch. He retweets white supremacy. He began his campaign by calling an entire minority group rapists. He says our black president faked his birth and might be working with ISIS. He did this.
Oh, look at my African American over here. Look at him.
That's not worse than you people? And what about basic old dumbness? I seem to remember Dan Quayle being pronounced unfit for office dumb because he misspelled potato. And Sarah Palin's brief flirtation with respectability came crashing down when she could not name what news sources she read.
All of them, any of them that have been in front of me over all these years.
But Trump doesn't even pretend he can read. He just hears things. I'm hearing. A lot of people are saying. This is his favorite news source. He hears things. Could be from a passing mental patient. It could be the voices in his own head. And when he does read, it's the National Enquirer, and he refers to it as the paper. Oh, I'm sorry, I'm not being fair. He does have one other news source.
All I know is what's on the internet.
Right, me too. I get my news from Pornhub. No wonder he once said,
I love the poorly educated.
John McCain and Bob Dole, both veterans, but war does things to a man. Both were accused of being too angry to be president. After all, Bob Dole once said this.
And Senator Dole, is there anything you'd like to say to the Vice President?
Yeah, stop lying about my record.
What a raving lunatic! But this is okay.
I don't know what I said. I don't remember.
Yeah, what about that? Obama once just compared his poor bowling skills to the Special Olympics, cut to the apology tour, but we're good with this.
I don't know what I said.
And finally, the ultimate third rail, insulting the military. Obama got endless shit for once saluting with coffee in his hand, violating an ancient military rule dating to never. But Trump can say John McCain isn't a war hero? If Hillary said that, they'd be burning pantsuits in effigy.
All right. So, Rick, I hope you were listening to that. It's hilarious. I mean,
I gotta say, I'm not usually a fan of Bill Maher, but most of what he just said there was completely spot on. And actually, just to add something, the whole McCain's not a war hero thing, Trump stepped it up a little more. Now he's accusing the military of stealing in Iraq and Afghanistan.
I heard that. What was that about exactly? If you could explain
something about of course, anytime we ever bomb the crap out of people, we eventually at some point start going in and start trying to help them rebuild their infrastructure and give them money and this, that, and the other. Apparently, he found some sources from God knows where that were stating that some of the military officers were misappropriating some of those funds and putting them right back in their pocket. So he called everybody, he called the entire military out in like an event and was like, yeah, our military right now, a bunch of thieves, crooks, liars, blah, blah, blah. And yet he's still the Republican frontrunner, which is why I'm no longer a Republican, ladies and gentlemen.
Are you officially registered as a libertarian now?
Yeah, I actually changed my registration before Trump got the nomination because for the first time in a very long time, the Libertarian Party is actually recognized in my state. So I'm going to do everything I can to try to make sure they stay recognized in my state. So at least there's more than just two options because these two options have become a conglomeration of each other, and there really is no difference anymore. It's just basically a brand war.
So Rick is a libertarian. I think they're on the ballot in all 50 states.
Yeah, they are to a point, but the thing about it is when a party isn't recognized in my state, you can't vote for them in a primary. You can vote for them in the general because they'll be on the ballot, but you cannot vote for any unrecognized party in a primary process unless they're actually a recognized party within my borders.
Can I ask you an honest question?
Yep.
Not that I don't normally ask you honest questions, but do you think that Gary Johnson could actually be president?
I don't think so, but I can't vote for either one of the other jabronis because, in my opinion, they're both just as bad for the country for different reasons. And honestly, he wasn't even my first choice as a libertarian. If I had my druthers, I would have preferred that Austin Peterson, who actually did an interview with one of our hosts, actually had gotten the nomination, but he actually interviewed her after he didn't get the nomination, and basically was pretty candid about the fact that he never really expected to get as far as he was, kind of only did it because he felt like he had to, but at the same time, and there were even some folks there that had gotten what I think is kind of a misconstrued opinion of him, because apparently there were a lot of folks at the convention itself that found him less than genuine, after having known the fact that he basically, even after he lost, sat down with one of our hosts for almost a half an hour and was completely candid. I find that to be a little disingenuous at best, but the bad thing about that is it's one of those things where, again, perception is typically reality. So once they got a bad taste in their mouth for him, it just kind of hung around, and I think that's one of the things that ultimately propelled Johnson to the front, because if you go back and you listen to the audio for the debates, Peterson cleaned his clock, but because people there didn't know enough about him and they didn't really like him, Johnson still ultimately got the nod. And the simple fact of the matter is, at this point now, no matter who I vote for, I feel like I'm going to be having to hold my nose and pull the lever, because every single one of the candidates that is now basically the de facto nominee for their party has things that I completely am diametrically opposed to as part of their platform. So there isn't really a clear choice of anywhere for me to go. And the driving factor for me to still pull the lever for Johnson is because if the Libertarian Party doesn't get at least 2.5% of the votes in my state, then they're knocked right back off the ballot again and they have to start all over.
I mean, he said that the last time he smoked weed was 7 weeks ago, and he was going to stop because he promised his wife he'd be in full swing for the presidential run. But anyways, I actually want to leave the show on a video clip from Hassan Minhaj.
Actually, hang on. But before you do that, then let me make an announcement real quick, because I haven't really had a chance to do that much this week because of technical issues and car issues. I didn't do very many live broadcasts. We actually have the head of the National Libertarian Party coming on America Off the Rails on Monday night. So make sure that you tune in at 10 Eastern. I would say his name, but I'm afraid I'm going to butcher it, so I'm not even going to attempt it. He has one of those last names that I'm not sure how to pronounce, and I actually haven't spoken to him yet. But you can actually find his information pretty easily. Just Google head of the Libertarian Party. You can look him up. And he agreed to do the whole show, so he'll be with us for the whole hour, minus, of course, breaks and intros, etc.
I heard some interesting things about him, but I'll let you find out for yourself. Anyways, everybody should watch that show. That sounds like it's going to be very interesting. I'll definitely be tuning in and begging Rick for me to be able to ask him questions.
Except they don't watch because it's radio.
Anyways, as I said, I'll be begging Rick to, ask a question for me or whatever, but beside the point. All right, I want to leave you on this video. By the way, as a side note, Opinion Nation on Facebook has been shut down by Facebook. So that's why I haven't been on social media. It probably is for the better, in all honesty. Because, yeah. Anyways, here's this video to end today's topic.
Almost $200,000 a year to write rules to make our society better. Not tweet, not tell us about your thoughts and prayers, to write rules to make our society better. You know, we look to you guys as our leaders. And ultimately it comes down to money and influence. And right now, since 1998, the NRA has given $3.7 million to Congress. There are 294 sitting members of Congress that have accepted contributions from the NRA, and that doesn't even include the millions of dollars from outside lobbying. If we raise $4 million, would you guys take that to save lives? And is this what you want your legacy to be? That you were could have done something, Congress, but you didn't because of outside lobbying? That you were complicit in the deaths of thousands of Americans? And look, I know being a member of Congress is hard. You got to placate your base. You got to look out for re-election. You got to answer to lobbyists. But please persevere, because our thoughts and prayers are with you. Good night.
Have a good week, everybody. I'll catch you next week. This has been Opinion Nation. I'm Bryce Robbins. See you later, everybody.